Min Jian. I'm an associate professor of communication studies. My specialty is Chinese internet, Chinese politics, and Chinese policies.
So my name is Xiaoyu Wang. I'm associate director of the Charlotte Visualization Center. So the area that I'm working at is visual analytics of the big data analysis and social media analytics, and that's where we have been having joint projects between digital humanity and computer science majors.
We call it Tweet China. We're interested in looking at the sort of interactions people have on Twitter about China. We want to extract the tweets, analyze the tweets, and understand interactions between people.
So this is to help us to understand the communities who are talking about China, what they're primarily focused on, and who may be the leaders, and how this community has grown over the years.
I had always had an interest in information science, and so I've been working with faculty over in computer science. We have been on several doctoral dissertation committees together, and so we knew each other before the project came along. And when we had this initiative in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, on digital humanities seat grants, I thought I should talk to Derek about this.
Yeah.
And so that's how the idea came along. I have an interest in China, in social media and Chinese internet, and he has interest and expertise, of course, in visualization and computer visualization. And so I thought it was a natural combination of things.
Yeah, so we actually totally reconnected when we were in one of the students' PhD dissertation defense, and we were just chatting. And then I thought we have the Viz Center. We have this weekly seminars. So basically, it's to disseminate our research and invite all the other colleagues from the university come by, students to come by, and just tell them what we're doing. And then I think Min was in one of those seminars, and I was kind of introducing my work at social media. And then with this grand opportunity showing up, and it's like, hey, Derek, this is an interesting opportunity. Do we want to do something? And I was like, yeah, it's very interesting, digital humanity. Then we start brainstorming the possibilities, formulating white papers, and liberal arts college was very kind to grant us this opportunity to work together, and that's how different pieces coming together in this process.
I also want to add, actually, in addition to the College of Information Informatics, and the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, there's also a third college involved in this project, which is Arts and Architecture, thanks to Heather, the Digital Scholarship Unit, and who actually kindly introduced us to Eric Sonda in the Department of Architecture. So we were able to actually bring 3 different colleges and faculty together and students together to work in this collaborative project.
So we are a center that really encourages interdisciplinary research. Like our core members of the center comes from bioinformatics, like Eric Sonda, as Min was mentioning, was one of our affiliated professors from architecture. We have people from, Duke Energy and all this area. So our students, when they start their PhD, they have a concentration of visual analytic visualization, but many of their projects are interdisciplinary. Like the student that Min and I were both on committees on, his work is ranging from text analysis to more community-based driven analysis and so on and so forth. So that's a great opportunity for us to reach out and to discover more projects, more innovative way of thinking. Because one of as our founding director, Bill Rybarski, setting up this center is for visual analytics to reach out into different domains, into different disciplinaries, and to help innovate the way people think, facilitate their decision-making process. So that, as the dean coming on board to pushing this cross-disciplinary thing, DSBA projects, data science, business analytics, we are rooting this deeply into the university, involving more faculties and institutes to come on board to work on this more multidisciplinary research-driven efforts and student base to cultivate more interdisciplinary students.
Actually, for me, it's because one of the students from computer science, she sought me out and thought, here's a communication person, and outside my discipline, what could she give? What kind of advice could she give me that might be helpful to my project? So we actually built a course together for her on social network analyses. And so that's how I got to know her. I was on her committee. We also later published together. And so I think there's sort of natural affinity between media studies, technology, which is my department, and also computer science. So there are natural opportunities for collaboration, especially with this age of big data, social networks, and social media. I think there are multiple opportunities for us to speak to each other.
And also, I want to add on this is that it's very valuable for me as very motivated reaching out to computer science people. I mean, that's what I really appreciate because granted, we're not the easiest person to talk to because the language we use in computer science is abstract and whatnot. But me has been very active working with multiple faculty, not just me in computer science major. And every feedback I heard from is really splendid. So I think that said is to be able to have an interdisciplinary collaboration, it needs motivation from both ends. And I think UNC Charlotte, we are driving this towards that angle, right? Eric Sauter, very active in collaborating with us. Dan Jennings, very active. And statistical people too. We have people, Dr. Faust, and Paula Bukhasin. She's very, very helpful in designing studies, mentoring students. So we are having a very long-standing, good relationship with the library and so on and so forth. That's where we see the motivation from both aisles are just splendid in this process.
So this seed grant from liberal arts and sciences has been really helpful in starting this project. So for me and Derek, we are looking at all these tweets about China on Twitter, and one of the goals that we want to achieve is to have the ability to answer such basic questions as who are on Twitter talking about China? What are they talking about? What aspects of China are they interested in? Who are opinion leaders in this space? And how are the interactions going in such a space? I think we have already generated quite a lot of interest. For instance, my colleagues who study China and who are interested in Chinese politics, they've already contacted me, and they're very enthusiastic to learn about the outcome of the project. Also, the other component, I think, is the visual analytics component, is to have the ability to not only archive the big data that's coming out of Twitter, but also being able to visualize in such a way that common people like you and me would be able to interact with data and conduct some analyses. So we're thinking about having different modes to show people the data and interact with the data, such as the mapping mode, the picture mode, and also the events mode. So in terms of the three, I'll explain a little bit. The mapping mode, we would like to have the tweets located on such interfaces like Google Maps, so people know where these tweets are coming from. And second of all, we're also interested in picture mode, in terms of what are some of the highly retweeted pictures in this space. What do these pictures tell us about what's going on in China and what people are concerned about? The last one is events. We know that a lot of media interactions are driven by events. We want to understand more about how people talk and how people interact with one another during these events.
Yeah, so on an overall scale, what we're trying to do here is to understand two things, right? The demographics. So who are the most representative people online, on social media, even speaking for speaking about China, their demographics, where their nationality, are they transnational, or so on and so forth, those kind of research questions. On the other hand is to understand the community, right? We want to see who are bundling together, because if you think about social media, it's a virtual world. It's breaking the boundaries of the physical location of the world. And we're trying to see how people from a physical location going to influence their community on a virtual world. So that's two major goals here. But fundamentally, what we are doing here, like Ming touched on, is that the ultimate goal for this SIG project is to have a website or interactive visual analytic system that allows the data democracy. We want data to speak for themselves online, and we want everyone, I mean really everybody, to be able to go online and interplay with those data and finding patterns that just two of us researchers, we may not even notice, but I firmly believe the wisdom of the crowds. So for them to understand what's going on there and for them to depict insights and provide feedback to the project. And just a side note, one of the goals for this project, seed project, is for us to go beyond just a seed project. As you can see, we would like to go beyond just China, because community exists in many different geographical part of the world. We want to go to be able to really look into how we can use social media to infer demographics, to cultivate the communities, and going for bigger grants that will involve more people or having more long-term research projects out of this.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. One of the things that we do, hopefully with the seed grant, is to draw people from different parts of the world who are interested in China and how China is talked about on Twitter to come to us and find for themselves what people are talking about China. And second stage, as Derek mentioned, is to scale the project in such a way that we're not only talking about China anymore, but China is a keyword for now, but users can use just about any keyword to tap into the swell of information that we already have, right? And on Twitter that we have archived since 2011.
I think one of the things from a computer science point of view is, it seems for us when we do our projects, it's more isolated to computer science. We push algorithms and we push other. But the thing that I'm pushing my center to going forward is to, how we can transform computer science research into humanitarian research. How we can make an impact to the world based on what the thing we do. So I think that's a perfect marriage between these two side of the research side, area, is to translate our strengths in social media analysis, but into the whole global kind of scaffolding of, if we understand a community, we can better serve that community, or better for people to understand that community and really transform that into a humanitarian side of the work. So that's one of the goals that we're trying to achieve here.
Twitter, as we realize, is a global medium, and a lot of people from different parts of the world are participating and discussing all kinds of issues on Twitter. One of the things that's really complicating the picture in our project is because China in and of itself is a very complex construct. We have mainland China, we have Hong Kongese, we have Taiwanese, we have people who are able to speak Chinese across the world. And so I think we're also tapping into a lot of literature in the humanities, thinking about how to define China to begin with. And China is not only defined by geography, which is also contested all the time, but also by language. And as a matter of fact, those who are able to tweet in Chinese, they tweet either in simplified Chinese or traditional Chinese. So there are different language codes going on. And in addition to this, I think we are also very concerned about the ethical side of the project, because Twitter is banned in China. So we need to pay attention to how we visualize the tweets and to what degree can we show the tweets and identify the users or not. So these are questions we're deeply concerned about, and I think will bring sensitivity to the project because of awareness of these kinds of issues involved in the project.
Right. So I think that's exactly one of the key point is to preserve privacy and not to expose too much information. That's typically what a lot of the computer science project, when they do, they're in a more isolated environment. However, in terms of the language side of things, it's even trickier. What we are looking at here is we are trying to, in the primary goal of this is trying to fusion not only Chinese language, but also English or other foreign language that can speak of China. So that heterogeneous language set there is just very interesting. So one of the things we have been thinking is that the different difficulty of understanding Chinese from a language point of view is not just about one character that can represent multiple meanings, but also about the grammars they're using, right? Not unlike Western languages. each language has a kind of a clause. You know where it stops. You have space in between words. So making it easier in computer science point of view to separate a sentence into a bag of words, right? Now, if you have bag of words, then you can tell there's a lot of techniques you can use to deal with bag of words problem. But for Chinese, it's a whole new different beast, right? The words are directly close to each other when they're trying to represent a short phrase, or we are lucky we know how to speak Mandarin, so that's easier for us to understand what they're talking about. But for computer, it's so confusing. It doesn't know about that, and the techniques that our social media analysis has previously used is called topic modeling. So which is based on the bag of words technique. You have a bag of westernized words or even Middle Eastern words, right? You can grab them, you can randomly assign, say this is one word that belongs to a certain topic. But it's not so trivial in Chinese. You can't just grab a Chinese character out of the context and say this means that. So we are trying out several strategies here, including translating this in real time into English, and then performing our natural language processing technologies on top of that, or having more sophisticated statistical analysis over Chinese language. It's not an easy problem. It's a problem that we are willing to, using this opportunity to try out different, methodologies and see which comes out the best. Now, on top of that, because we're building an interactive visualization, that's actually not the end game. That's actually embodied into the whole analysis process. So we're essentially using visualization to open up the analysis process we have on Chinese language, to that matter, any language. So when people interplay with the visual interface, they can directly manipulate the analysis results to their goals, to inform their own decisions. So that's where the combination between interactive visualization and data analysis and the context mean we're saying can be fusioned together.
As you can tell, Derek and I are pretty ambitious here, and we have so many goals to achieve. But hopefully, I think in the Sea Grant stage, we're able to play with these ideas and see what are some of the interesting problems that arise from the project that are worth pursuing in our external grant writing process. Yes. So these are, we have lots of ideas, and we hope to be able to use the project as a springboard to play with these ideas, and also to get feedback from our users, right? When we have a translation, is the translation good, right? And what can we do to improve the platform that we're building? And maybe getting feedback from other people would be really helpful for us to push the project forward.
And another important aspect out of that is that VMV, validation and verification, right? So that virtually exists in any social media analysis. How can we trust the result that you're presenting to us, right? Is this, you're saying this is something going on in this region, can I verify that? And that's part of my Army project, is working on those areas to understand that. How can we derive metrics that can really reuse that? So this project will be kind of a starting point for us to ask that deep question, is not only we're looking at just for English community or Western language community, when we look at the scale of globally, right? With the difference between different languages, with the difference in their culture, in their context, and the way they're speaking their languages, and making the verification even harder.
Yes.
So how can we do that? That's part of the bigger questions that we will ask out of this project, hopefully into external grants and continual research threads.
I think the library has been changing a great deal. Library, for me, is not only a depository of books anymore, but it should be a center of information for people to tap into and get help from on campus, not just faculty, but students and researchers included. So for us, really, the library has been really helpful to build bridges between different disciplines. So had it not been for Heather, we would not be able to get in touch with Eric Soda from the Department of Architecture, who is tremendous help to our project. So from that side, I think is tremendously helpful to our project.
Right. So for us is we have been like I mentioned this project with Eric and Heather and multiple people from Pennsylvania and all whatnot. Is we're looking at recreate a history of Rome based on digital library, digital images and archives. So that's just an example of how deeply rooted we are with the library, right? So we're as a computer science point of view, we look at this library as in the transformative places, right? We heard that also I got this introduction from the dean of or the people in charge of undergraduate students because one of the things I'm doing putting together is to have a big data consortium. So to collect multiple sets of large data set as an initiative to serve the community, to serve the direction that the university is steering into. And the library is in the leading front of that. I got introduced to Richard or yeah, exactly. So Richard down the hall that you have already started building a data repository with many data sets and such. And that's where I would like to have direct communication with them to offer our sense of big data and providing additional data source. And on top of that is to providing our analytics, providing visualizations for students who come by, for people or local business or to that matter, whoever, to be able to look what we are doing here as a digital front of library activities and to really strengthen that core area. I think there are a lot of research that can be done in there, and also there are a lot of educational purpose can be done in there, and I think those two serve purpose are the primary goal, as I understanding for a library that could educate and research. One thing I think is I really hope there will be more internal seed projects, not even from liberal arts and science, but also from computer science. And also Chancellor has been very nice on this. We got multiple seed grants from the Chancellor on multiple fronts to encourage interdisciplinary research like this. Because I think that's where sparkles can happen, right? We don't want to always just embed our heads in our ivory tower of research, either in computer science or in communication. We want to see what's cross kind of referencing between two different areas. And this kind of seed grants, this kind of support from university that can really sparkle that inspiration and innovation. And I firmly believe that's where research will go, right? That's where the big research will come from. And that's where NSF and all these funding agencies are looking into. So it's not a kind of obstacle in our project, but it's really a hope that this will encourage more and more interdisciplinary research projects like this to emerge in the next several years or so.